So these white spike aliens, okay? They're like a cross between like a spider monkey thing and what, like, scorpion to me, especially with like the white spikes coming out. Like, they are scary AF. It's always refreshing when you can see something new and improved, so to speak, and they come up with a good idea for the aliens. So they were scary.
The best I could come up with was they look like a rabid dog, so they have like, they can run on all 4 feet, but then on their backs it's like these octopus arms that also have like snake faces because they open and they shoot spikes. So yeah, it's a weird combination, but it was terrifying. And then I feel like their mouth when it opens is like one of those like, I don't know how to explain it, but I've done the best I can. I can't give you a better explanation of what they look like.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Jess.
I'm Minnie.
Together we review movies and TV shows. Today we're reviewing The Tomorrow War. You can find it on Amazon Prime Movies.
Start off in the year 2022, and you're watching how that works. Well, then all of a sudden something happens. People from 2051 show up, so it's 30 years in the future, and they basically explain the future is under attack. We need the past people and their knowledge and their power to come help us in the future to save the future. So that is the whole plot line of the movie.
We're gonna dive into like our favorites, worst moments, just things of note, stuff like that.
Yeah, so the genre that this one falls under is sci-fi action. This is our first movie that we're reviewing. We mostly have done TV shows, so favorites of what happened in the movie.
Well, time travel. They, they made sure to use the continuum transfunctioner to make it all the way to the year 2051, I believe, 30 years in the future. And my favorite part was the fact that, he didn't know it was his daughter for a while.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. And it wasn't such like this heartwarming reunion that I was, thinking that it might be because of the relationship you see him and his daughter have in the beginning. But I was still excited that got to be a part of the show. Because you know me, I'm all about like the relationships in the show. And so that was a big deal.
One of my favorite moments was when they're already in the future. And where the monster thingy, what are they called? White spikes?
White spikes.
Whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, so these white spikes are coming after them and they're running through the building. And he's shooting at them. Well, I don't know if the gun gets jammed or if he ran out of ammo. But he goes and he punches the axe in the wall and gets it out, and he starts fighting the thing with an axe, and everybody else is like, what are you doing? No, the gun's only with this species, okay?
Like, yeah, like it's no use.
It's moments like those that I get goosebumps, because I'm like, yeah, they're going off of like the norm of what the show is saying you should do to kill this. When I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, that's dope. Like, he's taking away the gun and he's like, melee weapon, let's go. And I just like, to me, that was like super cool, and I really enjoyed that moment specifically. There is that one other scene where they're in the nest, I believe, and she's
trying to capture the mama.
Yeah, and like some stuff is happening. She's kind of trapped in a sense because she's on this rock.
Yeah,
and
they backed her into a corner.
And then Daniel, who is Chris Pratt, comes down on his little rope from the helicopter, and he just like takes over the fight. And
what bothers me about the point like that you're making as your favorites is my first thought when I see those things happen in movies and TV shows is, did it really take this long for this and this many people died before somebody thought to fight these things with an axe?
Yeah.
Or to come at these guys strategically?
Well, I mean, you got to think about it.
I mean, I understand fear, so like,
yes.
That's why I say, is people, can I speak properly? Are people like him that rare that he didn't let his fight or flight, or because of his training, he didn't let his fight or flight kick in and just say, run, danger. Some of my favorites was the stuff that made it stand out. When he's finally reconnecting with his dad and they found the aliens buried in the ice.
Yep.
And the mother alien gets out, or one of them, because it looked like it was one that was like familiar.
Pregnant. It looked
pregnant. And like knew him from when he was in the future, and it's chasing him. And I mean, you just feel like this alien's about to beat them, and Chris Pratt has just given his all. And he's just down to his last, like, options, wondering what to do. So he's finally, like, screaming at the alien as he, like, stabs it one last time and is like, die! Die! And then he, like, throws him off the cliff, and his dad comes over, and what does he say?
Did you just tell it to die?
Yeah.
Well, it worked. Why didn't you say anything sooner? Oh, that part was so funny.
Well, it was the actor's delivery. He delivered it so well. Like they were at such a moment of high stress, and like both thought they were going to die. In fact, his dad pretty much gave like a speech like, "I'm so sorry for everything."
Yeah.
Like, I'm about to sacrifice myself and just take myself over the cliff with this monster.
And then Daniel's like, no, I don't like that idea.
You're not doing that. Like, we're still cool. We're not at that point where you need to like self-sacrifice.
Not only did Chris Pratt's character bring some humor to it, I felt like there was not one sole person that was the comic relief of this one. Mm-hmm. There were multiple people that said certain things that had that comic relief to it, but it wasn't like, this is the funny guy.
I was a little concerned, because I swear in the first 45 minutes of the show, I was like, I can't get into this. We need some humor. I was looking at it standalone for a good long while, and 45 minutes, I feel like, especially of a movie, I gave it a good shot and was like, this is so irritating. And then, like, when they're lying to him as they put that thing on his arm, and I'm just like, what are we doing? Obviously they're lying to you, but then this thing that they put on his arm is how they time travel. And then that was kind of weird. And then him falling through the sky and then somehow not getting hurt. I was like, but that was weird too. He could just fall from the sky, like, boop, boop, kind of like Jumanji, and just land and be okay, but we know they can't because they're human and they're there to fight a war.
Yeah.
So I was like, he just got lucky and fell into a pool, which, by the way, wasn't that deep. So, I mean, in all reality, he should have fallen in and hit his head and died in the bottom of the pool.
Because there's also people that fell on top of him.
Yeah, and there was other people falling. So I was like, this couldn't have been the way they planned it when they time traveled to have them.
So segue to one of my least favorite moments. I know I'm jumping around here, but
that's okay.
That moment, I was low-key pissed off because they've sent people how many times over the last year, 2 years, 3 years to fight this future war, and this one time, they start sending everybody.
And there's like some malfunction.
And there's a malfunction with the
continuum transfunctioner.
Yeah, continuum transfunctioner, whatever the heck they call that thing, that actually spits them out from, the past to the future. And, I mean, they probably sent, the scene makes it look like maybe 500 people or less, but they sent a bunch of people, and literally 10 of them lived. I was so angry. I was like, those people thought that they were going to go help fight. Like, I would have preferred to die fighting one of those monsters than dying from falling through the sky and hitting my head on the side of a building, having it snap my neck, and then I'm just gone. Like, I was so angry. I was like, that was messed up.
Right? Like, how stupid planning.
Right. Because it was like the past people had to talk to the future people somehow to make sure the jump happened all okay.
Right.
And
that's, yeah.
Why, after doing this for a year, was that even a possibility? Like, that's what I want to know.
And this leads into one of my least favorite moments. Even though it's a show, we're still in that world, okay? So we are looking at, I think both of us are good at that, is like putting ourselves in that world, okay? We're in that world, so we're looking at things from that perspective as if that is the way things operate. And I did not like the fact that his daughter was such a genius, all right? She's got how many masters, PhDs, doctorates, and it's taken her this long to figure out the solution to the problem. And it took her dad being there to help her finally get the mom. And
right.
Not only that, if she's that smart and she's solving that kind of a problem, why there's these kinds of things happening? Why when they're sending people back is there not somebody who's smart enough, or if she's the smartest person on the planet, presumably,
point, yeah.
why isn't she the one saying, like, only land them, you know, this is how we need to do this, so that people aren't dying on impact or dying as they're entering, you know, the future? Like,
Right.
do they really just not care about that? They're just like, they want to win the war, but they don't care how many people they send forward and just, like,
Exactly.
die. Oh, this movie's focus... It was rough for me. Like, I liked it once I got to the end of the show, and I could probably watch it again now and enjoy the first 45 minutes, but I feel like the important bulk of the show was that last half. Who are some of your favorite characters? I'm trying to...
So I like Daniel and little Murray. I did not like older Murray for pretty much the whole show up until, like, I don't want to share too much and, like, spoil too much of the show, but there was a certain point where I did start liking her, but with how he didn't know what he did. He as her dad. He didn't know
what had happened for him.
And so for her to be so rude to him when he, like, wants to come in and hug her and she's like, no, we can't do this. And I'm like, why? Why can't you do that? That's your dad. Like, I thought... Because you do get to find out earlier that, like, the reason that he qualifies to be sent is because in the future he's dead. So that's part of what qualifies a person to go to the future to fight for them. And so you find that out already. So now him being there and you're like, okay, so he's actually dead, but he's not dead now, and he gets to see his little girl, and all he wants is to hug her and be like, oh my God, you're still here. You survived this far, etc. And she's just being so rude. I was like, excuse you, girl, like, he doesn't know what he did. You cannot hold him accountable for his actions when he doesn't even know that he's gonna do it yet. And
if psychologist in me is popping in to say hello. Everyone has their boundaries and the way they cope with trauma. She was coping with her trauma, and she hadn't actually dealt with those feelings. So when there he is, she's forced to deal with her feelings, and she didn't want to. She was like, nah, like, I can't be an effective leader, and I can't continue to make all these things happen if I'm gonna go ahead and bawl and cry and feel all these feelings about my dad right now. So we're just gonna skip over that and stick with the mission. And I mean, he did the right thing. He did the right thing in respecting her boundaries. I would expect that, because she basically was trying to set the boundaries, and he was like, okay, I respect that. But yes, as a viewer, taking psychology glasses off, as a viewer, it was hard to watch, because we knew him as him with his little daughter, and they had this cute little relationship, and then it's like, bitch, what's your problem? Your favorite was the main character then. This is one of the first few that he wasn't. My favorite was Murray, both young and old, and Charlie. Like, I don't feel like Charlie was the comic relief, but Charlie's attitude towards the whole thing, I loved him, because his attitude wasn't changed or altered by what everybody else was saying and what everyone else was doing. He knew he was going there and probably gonna die, and he knew he was terrified, and he said he was terrified. He's the one that kept saying his feelings and kept saying what's up, and then everyone's just telling him to shut up, and you know, and but he kept fighting, and he even at the moments when he was like, yeah, I was a coward, I totally hid. You know, but then he was like, you know, finally towards the end was like, I'm not hiding anymore. You know, and even that, like, tiny little character development, I really love Charlie. And I would hope that if I ever had to do something like what they had to do in this, that I had somebody like Charlie with me.
There was one more moment that I wanted to note, and this to me was I don't know, I guess it spoke to me because of who I am. Two different school scenes where Daniel is teaching his science class. The first one is basically the segue to the second one, because the second one doesn't make sense if you don't know about the first one. So I'm going to just touch on both. So in the first one, they're going over all this stuff and everybody's bored. And he's like, clearly you guys are all bored. Is there something else y'all want to talk about? Raise a hands if you have a subject. And nobody raises their hand but this one kid, and he's me, pick me. And he's all, besides you.
Anybody but blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
He's like, and we already know what you want to talk about, which is volcanoes. And he's like, yeah, but you guys, they're so cool. Like, I know everything about volcanoes and blah, blah, blah. And he's going off on, like, some facts about volcanoes. So, segue, they found some dirt or ash or whatever that they needed to know how it would travel from China to Russia. Well, somebody said something about a volcano and the little light bulb goes off like, oh, I have a student that is obsessed with volcanoes. So they go into class and this is when they're trying to figure out.
Is that when he's like, I knew this was going to happen?
Yeah. And then they go back to the school to the student and they're like, tell us all you know about volcanoes. How would this from China get to this in Russia? And the kid starts to explain to them, well, blah, blah, blah. And that's their clue to know where to go and how to figure out all of this information. I just thought that was really cool because of the fact that it's a student that's interested in science, and he is a student. I'm pretty sure he's only in high school, and all of these adults have to go to a high school student to get help because they don't know it.
Well, not just because of that, but because he was within reach. Like, I'm sure
Right,
there was other
exactly.
kids that were that smart, but he was the one that was within reach there.
But what I mean is, a bunch of adults had to go to a child.
Yes.
To find an answer. What did you rate this show?
Honestly, I had a really hard time rating this one because the last half of the show was the bomb, and the first half was not. Let's say 3.5. To be fair, 3.5 stars out of 5.
Yeah, so I agree. I was heavily influenced by the end of the movie when I did do my rating that I gave it a 4. And then I had to go back and be like, wait, was it that good? Because it was a really slow start. And there's still some items in the beginning that I don't know what they had to do with the storyline, what they had to do with the show at all. So I did end up dropping it down to a 3.5 as well. From the trailers, I thought that he signed up for it. Like, he went and said, I want to go.
Right.
I want to help with
for myself as tribute.
Yeah. Like, I
what
thought...
is that? Is it the 3? Is it the 3?
Yeah. So, I
thought it was like a Save My Family tribute situation.
So did I. And then when you find out that it was not that they ultimately forced him into it, I was like, that was lackluster.
Well, not just forced, but they didn't tell him what was going on. And we all kind of knew what was going on, but you're like, well, he's really smart, so he must know what's going on.
That is the end of our review. We hope that you guys will go watch The Tomorrow War.
And let us know what you think.
Yeah, please comment below, subscribe if you want to watch more content that we're going to release in the future. And we look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments as they come.
Especially if you know what the continuum transfunctioner is. Or the flux capacitor. I don't think I mentioned that, but I meant to, if you guys know what those things are, more power to you. If you don't know what they are, you really need to get watching more movies. And we can tell you in the comments what those movies are that we're referring to.
Yes.
Because they're great movies.
Hope to see you back here soon.
Thanks for watching, guys. Keep shining, folks.
Bye.
Bye.